You know, when you think about a national anthem, you probably think of something set in stone, right? Unchanging. But what if an anthem was actually a battleground? Today, we're diving into the amazing story of a revolutionary poet and the fight for the very soul of Puerto Rico's national song.
So, let's get right into it. At the heart of this whole thing is Puerto Rico's official anthem, La Borinqueña. But here's the catch. The version you'd hear today at some official event, well, that's not the original, not even close. There's another, much more fiery version that tells a totally different story about the island's identity. And I mean, just look at this contrast. It says it all. On one side, you have the roar of the cannon, a straight-up call to arms. On the other, a peaceful, flowery garden. The music is identical, but the message, they couldn't be more different.
So you've got to be asking, right? How does this even happen? Why would a national song get such a drastic makeover? And what does that change tell us about Puerto Rico's long, complicated journey to define itself? Let's unravel this thing.
All right, so who was behind that first revolutionary version? This woman, Lola Rodríguez de Tió. And let me tell you, she wasn't just a poet. She was a fierce political activist, an early feminist, and just a massive voice for an independent Puerto Rico. Just take a look at her life. It was basically defined by the struggle. Even though she was born into a privileged family, she dedicated her life to fighting colonial powers. In 1868, right in the middle of a huge uprising against Spain called the Grito de Lares, she wrote her version of the anthem. Her activism was so potent, she was exiled from her home island not once, but twice, and she actually died in Cuba, never having returned. This is her most famous quote, and it just perfectly captures her worldview. She saw Puerto Rico and Cuba as two wings of the same bird, inseparable, united in the same fight for freedom from Spanish rule. It's such a powerful image of Caribbean solidarity. And get this, she wasn't just fighting for national independence. Lola was way ahead of her time, pushing for women to be seen as equals in the struggle. This line from her anthem shows she believed women weren't just standing on the sidelines. No, they were warriors. So, if her anthem was so powerful, what happened to it? How did the roar of the cannon get swapped out for a flowery garden? Well, the answer lies in a major turning point in the island's history. And here it is, 1898. The Spanish-American War changes everything. Control of Puerto Rico passes from Spain to the United States. This wasn't just a change of flags. This was a fundamental shift that would reshape the island's destiny. And, of course, its anthem.
So the new American authorities took one look at Lola's lyrics and basically said absolutely not. They found them to be, and this is a quote, too subversive. A song that tells people to wake up and fight was not exactly what the new colonial power wanted the population singing.
So the anthem was deliberately changed. In 1903, new lyrics were written by Manuel Fernandez Juncos. Lola's call to arms was just gone, replaced with a peaceful, pastoral ode to the island's beauty. The revolutionary spirit was pretty much scrubbed from the song to make it politically harmless. And this new version, it became official in 1952. But Lola's story doesn't just end there. In recent years, scholars have started looking at her legacy with a more critical eye. She's a national hero, for sure, but she's also a much more complex figure than that simple story suggests. Now, to understand the modern critique, you have to understand where she came from. Lola was part of the Spanish Creole elite. This means she was a white woman of Spanish descent, born into a powerful and wealthy family on the island. The social position gave her a platform, but it also, shaped her perspective. And this is the core of that critique, put really well here by scholar Lucas Rene Ramos. He argues that while Lola's activism was well-intentioned, her vision of an independent Puerto Rico was pretty Eurocentric. By centering the struggle around the Creole elite, her movement inadvertently silenced and took authority away from the island's crucial Afro-Latinx voices. This perspective helps us see a deeper truth. Puerto Rico's geography, its islandness, has forged this powerful, distinct national identity. And that is exactly why symbols like the flag and the anthem become so important. They become these battlegrounds where the very definition of what it means to be Puerto Rican gets fought over. So, after looking at her as both a hero and a flawed historical figure, what's the takeaway? Why is the story of Lola Rodríguez de Tió and her two anthems still so relevant to us today? Let's break it down. First, Lola proves that art, especially poetry, can be a seriously powerful form of political protest. Second, the story of the two anthems shows that national symbols are never neutral. They're always being contested.
Third, it reminds us that our heroes are often complex products of their time. And finally, the fact that this debate even exists is a direct reflection of Puerto Rico's unresolved political status and its ongoing quest for self-determination.
And that leaves us with one final, really crucial question. It's easy to celebrate heroes who are perfect, but history rarely gives us those. The real challenge is figuring out how we remember and learn from complicated figures like Lola, people who fought for freedom, but whose vision of freedom might not have included everyone. It's a question that goes far beyond just one poet and one island.